internet? I am Daddy Satan, and yes, welcome back to The Devil Wants to Know. Today, I am here with...
Ryder Gently.
Yes!
I am a local drag performer here in Phoenix. I had no idea the opportunities that it was going to afford me, or even the potential of what it could become for me.
So how long have you been doing drag, and what got you into it?
So I've been doing drag probably 18, 19 months now. And it was something I'd always wanted to do. I got sober 6.5 years ago now. And I met Regina Gazelle.
Yeah!
And an amazing woman. And I loved what she was doing. I mentioned to her that it was something that I wanted to do. And she strongly discouraged it. Because I was newer in my sobriety. And she wanted to make sure that I was in a place where I could be in these challenging environments and be okay. And so I focused on my sobriety. And through that, I figured out that I'm actually trans, and that was a part of why I got into an active addiction. And so once life kind of stabilized a little bit, I was starting to get that itch again. And out of nowhere, Regina says, "So what do you think about doing that drag thing?" And I was on board. So she introduced me to Desiree DeMornay and Naomi DeMornay. Naomi gave me a little drive-by spot over at BS West. I got to do one little set. And then Desiree put me in her show that she had at the time that was for like finding new talent. It was a monthly contest. And so I went and did Desiree's contest and I won. I still don't know how in the world that happened. But I did, and that landed me my first booked show.
Yes!
And then from there, I got talked into competing for Mr. Stacy's.
Nice.
And so I competed for Mr. Stacy's with like 2 months of drag under my belt.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much just been off to the races ever since.
Yay!
It has not stopped.
Oh, that's awesome. Everything fell into place so perfectly. Yeah. Would you say that drag has helped you in your life overall in that case then?
Huge. It's been a huge part of helping me to really find comfort in who I am. And it's given me a safe space to really question that and to really define who I want to be as a trans male. And it's allowed me to play with different personas. And it's helped me to kind of balance and just feel more all around secure in my own skin, even going through my transition.
That's so cool. I wonder if you have this similar experience where, like, for me, I find it hard to express myself through talking, especially if it's a crowd, but going through art feels way easier. Yes. Do you feel that?
Oh yeah, 100%. It's like I can sit down with a set of lyrics with, a set of songs, and I can put those together and kind of mesh them up. And, I'm grateful that I've developed a team of people around me that work with me to see my vision through. And so I come to them with like, hey, I want to do this. And then they scramble it all together and fill in the little gaps. And it's watching that vision come to life, and I get to put together these little mini stories within my sets.
I love it.
And it's just been an incredible experience.
Yes! The power of drag. What can we say? Towards the beginning of your career, how did you come up with your drag name?
That one's kind of... so honestly, I Googled it.
I love it.
I Googled like drag names for drag kings. And I found like a whole bunch of random names and stuff. And through looking at them, I meshed a couple together. And then I called Regina. I was like, okay, I like this. And she was like, that sucks. And I was like, oh, so defeated and back to the drawing boards. And I came up with Ryder Gently, and she's like, I like it, but now you have to make sure it doesn't exist somewhere. And so I set out on this path to determine whether or not it was already in use, and searching the internet and searching different social medias and just search. And I found one individual that had used the name all all the way back in like 2012.
Ooh.
And it had not been used since. So, and they had like 4 followers, and I messaged them and I got nothing. So I was like, okay,
yeah,
here we go.
Yeah.
And so I felt confident in being able to go ahead and kind of take on the persona. I spelled it slightly different, just in case anything came back. But I felt confident in moving forward with it because I couldn't find anything on the internet.
Yeah, it was meant to be. You had to bring it into the world. So do you have a drag parent or drag family?
I do. And that was something that I didn't take lightly. When I first came into the drag world, I saw all the families and I was kind of envious because I was like, oh, I want that. But then I saw some of the drama that comes with that.
Definitely.
And so I got a little scared and very apprehensive. And I will always say Regina Gazelle is my drag mom, because she's the one that really has been there from the beginning. But with her blessing, I did adopt a bonus mom. And it was a lot of conversation around what that looked like and really making sure that individual had my best interest at heart and was about wanting to create a supportive environment to invest in me to be better, and vice versa. I wanted it to be something that I could be a part of as well, not just me being a leech off of the family, so to speak.
Yeah.
And they did approach me, and so that felt good. But I adopted Taylor Renee as my bonus drag mom.
Nice.
And so I've been working with the House of Renee, doing some work with those guys over the last few months. And then recently, within the last probably 90 days, I was approached by a king that was interested in being my drag dad. And I was quite honored because it was an individual that has really been by my side since the beginning, very quietly, but always very supportive. The type of person that literally we competed in the same pageant together last year, and this individual would get themselves ready and then come over and check on me. And it's that type of giving and supportiveness, and not just that they did that for me, but they do that for everyone. And it's that type of legacy that I want to be a part of.
Yeah, definitely.
And that I want to learn how to do that in a respectful way. And so with some thought and consideration, I gladly took on Frankie Fahrenheit de Mornay as my drag dad.
Well, I think you definitely do honor carrying on the legacy because you are super respectful and you think about community as a whole as well. Like, you think of the implications of your individual actions, and I don't think that's super common. So I'm very proud to be in the same scene as you because you're one of the leaders in the community. So
thank you.
Fucking kings, am I right? So tell me about your favorite gig you've ever done so far.
Oh, wow.
I know, it's tough.
that is a tough one, because I've had so many fantastic opportunities. No slide to anybody or anything, but I think probably one of the coolest ones that I've had the opportunity to do is I got a call last summer-ish, and I got asked to be part of the inaugural Pride celebration for Payson.
Oh, cool.
So rural, remote community, kind of reminds me of where I grew up. Not a lot of LGBTQIA plus representation. There were a lot of people that did not want it to happen. And so I was very honored to be one of the individuals that they wanted to headline that event. And I had a blast.
That is so cool. Fun. Was the weather better?
The weather was great. We did the show the end of September, so it was absolutely gorgeous. And they took tremendous care of us. They made sure we had accommodations. They made sure we were safe, we were secure. We had over 200 people that came out for that event.
Hell yeah.
It was a small group of entertainers, but it was incredible, because it was the first time it had ever been done, and they gave us such free reign of how we wanted to do it and what we wanted to do. And we got the opportunity to do things like 10-minute openers, that
Oh,
included most of our entire cast that was going to be
nice.
there that day.
Nice.
And we got to perform a custom written Beauty and the Beast scene that was tailored to the LGBT community, that had the lyrics kind of tweaked to support that. But it was 10 minutes long, and in a lot of environments we wouldn't have been able to do that.
Definitely.
But because of what it was, and because it was the inaugural celebration, we had that type of freedom, and we got to be that first impact, that first influence within the community, and it was just incredible to get to be a part of that.
Do you remember what the audience reception was like, since it was kind of weird going into the rural-ish area?
The audience that was within the arena was so loving, so supportive. Like, they were so excited. For some of them, they had never seen drag kings, drag queens, and it was just, you would have thought you were a celebrity. You have like kids running up asking you to sign autographs, and they're asking you for merch, and they're wanting to buy your merch, and they're just so excited to see this thing that to them is just like they've never seen it. It doesn't exist for them.
Yeah.
It was wild.
I think that is one of the powers of drag, is that you get to show people another way of living, and you don't have to just be in the boxes that capitalism and the patriarchy set for us before we were ever even born. We get to show that life is free and you can make your own rules, and a lot of kids don't see that. So when they do, it is mind-blowing. So you're making waves out there.
Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
We'll take them all. So have you ever had an embarrassing or funny moment during a gig? You're like, no, I'm professional. I know what I'm doing.
No. Just most of the embarrassing moments that I have in drag are planned, and I put myself into them.
Oh, I love that.
So I can't think of anything off the top of my head that is really an unplanned event, thankfully.
Good.
I mean, I've had like little prop snafus and things like that, but nothing where something is revealed that shouldn't be. But I would say probably the one that really challenged me most, from a embarrassment standpoint, and really ultimately grew me as an entertainer, was back at the holiday season this last year. I did a really campy routine to a song called "Walking Around in Women's Underwear."
Oh, I remember that.
And that was that was definitely slightly embarrassing, because it was very revealing. And it was outside of my comfort zone. But part of doing that really grew me and really helped me to be okay, and to feel more comfortable in who I am, and to be seen as that masculine entity. And so many people cringed because they just couldn't see it, couldn't even, it was like the train wreck. You couldn't help but look, but you didn't want to look. But
I wanted to look.
It was a lot of fun. And now I've been challenged to bring it back next year, but to do it quite slightly different. And so I think that it may be a reoccurring routine that evolves year after year.
Yes, warranted, I'd say. I loved how you said that about your masculinity. So not only are you helping queer kids, not only are you helping with artists and everything, but you're tackling toxic masculinity all at the same time, because your masculinity does not depend on what you're wearing. No. If you put on a pair of women's clothes, it doesn't mean anything else other than that you're a man in women's clothes. And do clothes really have gender in the first place?
Yeah.
So you're making so many waves, and I just remember the crowd fucking dying while you were doing that number, me included. So please do bring it back.
It'll probably skimpier next year.
Oh, yes. I love it. What is your favorite part about drag?
it's a space for creativity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's constantly challenging myself for what's new,
Mm-hmm.
what's next, what's going to get the next laugh, what's going to get the next cheer, what's going to get that next message, you know, and like what's going on in the world that I have a message that I want to get out there,
Yeah.
you know. So to that point, like last year, I started doing the junior drag shows, right?
Yes.
And I wanted to prove that drag could be family friendly, and that there was a space for junior performers to safely do drag, and that we could provide an encouraging environment for these junior performers to get stage time and to develop their art, you know, and to show that these adult performers do have the ability to perform in a very family friendly way and still be entertaining. And one of the first shows that I did, the current Miss Phoenix Pride, Veronica, she reached out to me and said, I have this song and I think you're the person that needs to do it. And I listened to it and I was like, I don't know why I'm the person that needs to do it. But I'm not going to question you. I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know where, I didn't know why, I didn't know when. So I held on to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I did that junior drag show, the song is called Drag Queen. And it talks about not dragging down a drag queen for performing, for being who they are,
Mm-hmm.
for living a life that's respectable within a community, but also being that drag performer on stage.
Aw.
And the strength that goes into being able to live that double life,
Mm-hmm.
to have the ability to do both of those things. And I got the opportunity to bring that to stage. And the first time that I performed it was at that junior show on a community friendly stage.
Nice.
And being able to see the crowd's response to that type of messaging be
Mm-hmm.
delivered, it's those things. Those are the things that it compels me to want to do more. It compels me to want to continue to find ways to deliver an impactful message through my art.
So you and I have talked a little bit before about mental health, so far to the point where you said that you wouldn't partake in a roast. I'm really curious, like, what is your background in mental health and why do you care about the implications of what you do to the community?
You know, I have talked and shared openly about the fact that I'm in recovery. You know, and I'm in recovery for drugs and alcohol, and that's a part of my past. You know, and there's a lot of overlap within issues within mental health in association with drugs and alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of overlap into the LGBTQIA plus community. And oftentimes, you know, mental health conditions get self-treated with drugs and alcohol, or a product of the lives that we live, and we drown that out with drugs and alcohol, which worsens mental health conditions, you know. And I grew up in an environment where mental health was not something that was talked about.
Mm-hmm.
You were just expected to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like mental health was something that rich people had, you know. It wasn't actually a real thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so becoming an adult and getting sober and starting to see a therapist and really starting to look at my own mental health, kind of created a passion that I wanted to work within that industry. And so I made some career adjustments. And for a short time, I went and worked in the mental health career field, you know, specifically with addiction and substance abuse, but with a focus on the clinical aspect of it. And just seeing how comments that we make to people resonate with them,
Mm-hmm.
and they hang on to those comments for so long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's we get told things as children, and we hear that voice in the back of our mind, even as adults,
Yeah.
that tells us we're less than, we're not enough, we're not good enough, we'll never be. It's those little voices that gnaw away at us,
Mm-hmm.
that hold us back from being able to be our true selves, being able to accomplish what we could if we could silence those demons within, and for me, I don't want to be the little voice in somebody's head.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the way that suicide and substance abuse and addiction can impact people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the aftermath of attempted suicides from the mental health aspect, and seeing what that looks like from the person who didn't complete, seeing what it looks like with the family of somebody who does complete. Um, it hits a little too close to home, and we have our men and women coming back from serving in the military, that are ridiculed with PTSD that people don't understand, and it goes untreated. And 22 of those individuals commit suicide every single day in the United States. And oftentimes it's because they have a fear of getting attention and having mental health conditions treated. And until we can remove the stigma and allow mental health conditions to be something that's accepted, to be talked about, to be acknowledged, and to be medically treated, then we're going to continue to have young men and women within the LGBTQIA plus community and beyond that are going to continue to see this as their only solution to the pain that they feel inside.
Yeah.
And nothing that I do I want to be an impact that is part of them making that decision. And so I try to make sure that my words are positive and encouraging and motivational and looking for the brighter side of things.
Yeah.
Because we can always find the darkness if that's what we seek.
Absolutely, yeah. We definitely do tell ourselves narratives from little kids. So I try to remind people from what I've learned in therapy, if you can remember what it was like to be a kid before you ever had those thoughts, that is the true you, because you didn't tell yourself those thoughts. No. It's always from other people, whether it's family, society, our surroundings. Yep. But it is so hard when pretty much all of America is fucked up in the head.
Yeah.
But I think that's super commendable what you do. I try to do similar things because I have PTSD and I'm entering my 5th year of therapy, and shit's tough. And before I was diagnosed, I didn't know what was going on. I just thought I was crazy. I even had a really bad therapist tell me, wow, you really are crazy, aren't you? So I totally understand what it's like. And because of that, I try to not participate in the comments where people are very self-doubting or self-deprecating, like, oh, I'm so stupid. I try to confront it with, hey, don't talk about my friend that way. Yeah. Or I don't add on to it like, oh, you stupid idiot. Or like you're saying, you don't want to contribute to that negativity. But there are so few people like us who have been to therapy that recognize that the little things you say really do continually beat down. So I'm really grateful to have you in this community because, like I said, there are so few of us, but we definitely make ripples out in the world. So good on you.
You too. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, so this very past year, I entered my first ever competition, and we were in it together. And I remember before it started, I was so confident in myself. I'm like, I'm going to do great. And you're like, oh, I'm not going to win. Well, first of all, it was an honor just to compete with you, but you ended up fucking winning. So how was that?
It was a humbling experience. It was a lot of fun competing. It was a lot of fun getting to know the people that I was competing with. And it was tough because as much as you wanted somebody else to win, I wanted to win too.
Definitely.
And when I looked at the lineup for that competition, there was nobody that would not have been a good addition. Mm-hmm. And that's the crazy part. Like, the people that were accepted to compete were incredible performers, and for me, not having done this for very long, that was part of that self-doubt, going, I don't deserve to be in the same arena competing with this level of entertainer, and that doubt within me was kind of holding me back. And I had to have that very strong conversation with myself, like, hey, you're doing that thing that you tell other people not to do. Rather than doing that, why don't we focus on what we can do? And that's where I'm grateful that I have this incredible team of people around me that say, like, hey, cut it out, and then they empower me to really become creative, and then they help me to put that creativity into motion, and I have what I call my millennial, right? And they're an incredible individual. I just nicknamed them my millennial because they do all things that millennials do well. They do all the social media, they do all the emails, they keep up with all of that, they make the reels, they mix the music, they do all of that techie aspect piece of it that's really needed, but outside of my skill set, and I'm grateful to have that individual on my team. And I've had that individual from day one, and I have another individual whose passion is really around creating arts and crafts, like little intricate pieces, like the light up belt buckle.
Oh, yeah.
And so I can call this person, I can say, hey, this is the mix that I'm putting together. This is the vision that I have. And then the next thing I know, they call me and say, this is what I have for the props to go with that.
Nice.
And so I'm grateful that I have that team of people that are there supporting me and encouraging me and helping me to develop the items that it takes to be able to do that.
It takes a village.
It truly does. And without a village, I would not have had the ability to win that contest.
Yes.
That was an epic process in and of itself. I actually went and took dance lessons for that.
I love that. Oh my God, yes.
Because I knew if I stood any chance against the talented individuals that, like yourself, that I was up against in this, I was gonna have to elevate my game.
That's awesome. I love it.
I definitely spent hours working on the routines for that.
Yes, that's so cool.
I probably spent longer working on that than I did Pride.
So what is it like now to be a continual member of the King's Court?
Yeah. It's that part about twice a month. It's new content twice a month is that,
hefty order.
It's an ongoing challenge. But honestly, it's a lot of fun, because especially this year we started the theme shows, the first show of every month. And we're taking turns choosing the themes. So you can kind of, if you stand back and watch the themes, you can like pick whose theme falls to who. It's pretty easy. Thus far it has been anyways. It's like, oh, you chose that one, didn't you? But it kind of gives that some direction. So I'm not just out there frailing around in the water going, what's next? Thankfully.
Nice.
But it is nice having that solid place that I know I'm going to be every 2 weeks, and being able to look at people and say, like, hey, come catch a show. I'm here the first and third Saturday of the month, and it's truly an honor, and then starting to see the other side of it, and from the show producer side of it, and seeing the pieces that go into that, and how you select cast, and looking at the number of people that are interested in being a part of the show. And it's still a very humbling experience.
So do you have any drag goals for the future?
Yeah, I do. I do and I don't. There are certain things that I want to accomplish for sure. I've been working with the Arizona Gay Rodeo Association, now working with the International Gay Rodeo Association.
Nice.
Probably one of my most immediate goals is working to help the Arizona Gay Rodeo Association be a more recognized performance entity within the rest of the drag community. Because they've never been invited to perform at things like Pride or Rainbow Fest, and so it's teaching them that in order to be invited, you have to do the application. You know, like there are pieces that go to this. You know, you don't just get a phone call. Like there's a process that goes into that. And so helping to have the organization to do those applications,
Nice.
you know, but then vice versa, you know, helping to reach out to Pride and say, hey, come actually be a part of the rodeo.
Mhm.
Don't just like give us your pictures to put on the posters.
Yeah.
Like come actually perform.
Yeah.
Like let's see where these two worlds overlap.
Nice.
You know, and I've spent a lot of this year working one-on-one and in small groups with the Pride team,
Mhm.
and really working on that relationship, you
Mm.
know. And so for me, it's wanting to continue to foster and build those relationships within the community to show that there is overlap and there is space for these different styles of performers, the different types of performers, and that there's not just one definitive definition of what drag should look like, but
Definitely.
there's a space for all these different types of performers on stage.
Nice.
So that is definitely a goal. Individually speaking, I will go so far as to say I have caught the pageant bug.
Ooh.
And I am looking at what my next pageantry endeavor will be.
Nice.
I don't think it will be a local pageant system.
Nice.
As I have set my sights a little higher.
Sick.
I will leave it at that for now.
Well, you know, I'd say good luck, but I don't think you need it.
I appreciate it, but there will be a lot of luck that will be needed in the future.
Okay.
I will keep you posted.
Yes, I'll send you my powers.
Yes, please do.
Can you tell us more about the Gay Rodeo? I've never been. Are there cows involved?
There are actually cows
Yes!
involved. So the Arizona Gay Rodeo is actually the largest rodeo as far as attendance wise and number of competitors, just short of the World Gay Finals.
Ooh.
So Arizona does theirs the second weekend in February every year. It's done on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Kicks off with our royalty competition on Thursday.
Nice.
We work very closely with Charlie's to do that. We have a lot of your traditional rodeo type events. So bronc riding, steer riding, bull riding, calf roping. You know, we work very closely with veterinarians. They're on site, so our animals are taken care of. We have an ethical practices board that monitors the treatment of our animals, as well as the treatment of our people, to ensure that everybody is treated correctly, including the animals.
Nice.
But we also have some very gay events.
Yeah.
So we do something that's called a wild drag race. There's also a cow involved in a wild drag race.
Oh.
I invite you to come out and take a look.
I'm excited.
Yeah. There's a drag queen and a cow and a rope.
Oh, okay.
There's your lead. You know how gay people like to dress up animals.
No.
I know, right? There are no chihuahuas, but there are goats.
Ooh.
And we do dress them.
Cute. I love that.
It is actually a timed competition event to dress the goat.
Hell yeah.
If you have never been to a gay rodeo, I strongly encourage it. If nothing else, just because it's a great way to laugh away your afternoon.
Hell yeah. I love that. Okay, on this tangent, I am a 3-year in a row champion of a cow chip toss in Yuma.
Wow.
So I'm familiar with cows, but it's their shit, not the actual cows.
Yeah, we don't do any chip tossing.
Well, I mean, if you need my services.
I'm thinking we may need to look at putting this in as an event.
Yes.
Like we may have to talk to the board about having this added as an event, because it sounds like it would be a lot of fun.
Yes. I did get put in the local newspaper for it, so I might have to get you a copy.
I might have to go watch this the next time you compete.
Hell yeah, I love it.
I need to get involved in this.
Yes. Yay, cow poop.
So you were talking about sponsors or like free stuff at one point. So one of the cool things about the rodeo and the work with the rodeo and things like that is we are actually allowed to have sponsors.
Ooh.
So like say Justin Ropers wanted to reach out and give me a pair of their boots to compete in, I could absolutely do that. And then they get announced when I compete and
Hell
things like
yeah.
that. So it's cool to be part of an organization where you're allowed to represent brands that are willing to support you.
Yeah.
And you kind of see which brands are really willing to put money behind we support the LGBT community.
Hell yeah. I love that. Yeah. Okay, everyone, put your fingers out to the screen that you are watching right now and manifest Ryder's getting free stuff. PR this way. We'll take it all. If budget was no obstacle, what would your fantasy number be?
I have never even thought about it, but the initial knee-jerk reaction when you ask that question, my brain goes to doing some type of a mashup with either Garth Brooks or maybe old school Chris Ledoux. Just because he's not as well known, but some of his music has been redone by other artists that is very well known. But I can definitely see a big, like, it would have to be made out of barbed wire, and there would be hay, and at some point it's on fire.
Yes. And, oh, I love it already.
I don't know what we're doing to it, but there would definitely be barbed wire, hay, and fire.
Okay. I'll take that. What about look-wise? Is there like any one piece you're like, if I had the money, I would have this?
Yeah, there's a couple of hats that I've got my eye on, a couple of pairs of boots.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would definitely have to be something from the Stetson line, probably something from the Justin line on boots, and then I would need just this killer Western style jacket with like leather lapels and just like perfect fit. Yeah, it'd have to be a mix between like leather and denim.
Yes, I love it. Okay, we're manifesting PR. If you need someone to model for you.
Absolutely.
Yes, we'll say free stuff.
Always.
You have a lot of Western influence on your drag. Where does that come from?
I grew up, honestly, born and raised on farms and ranches.
Nice.
And growing up, it was always, I wanted to do the things that all the boys did.
Yes.
And oftentimes I could get away with doing most of it and getting to do most of it. But it was always wanting to be seen as that, you know, and growing up with that bravado aspect of like, that's what a real man is, you know. And so when I went into drag, it was just like, I want to do something that nobody else is doing, but I want to do something that I know. I want to do something that resonates with me. And for as much as my everyday life does not match that boots and tight jeans persona and the big hats and everything else, the me that's inside is still very that Southern country hospitality.
Yeah.
And so my drag persona kind of gives me a space for that to make sense. But it's something that nobody else was doing that to me gave me a place to do something that just has been kind of hiding inside all these years.
Yeah.
You know, and it gave me a place to showcase it and play with it and be able to have a little fun with it, you know. And I never wanted to be the rhinestone cowboy. I always get that. I've got that from the beginning. And I had so many people like, you need rhinestones, you need rhinestones, you need rhinestones. I don't need a rhinestone. I don't need a rhinestone. I finally broke down and rhinestoned my first shirt a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It almost killed me, but it looked so good.
Nice.
So I've done a couple more.
Nice.
But rhinestones are still not my thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not.
I totally get that. Everyone tells me to rhinestone everything, and I'm like, I'm the devil. So I'll put spikes, but rhinestones, I don't really know.
Yeah. So Ryder's got something coming that's not
Ooh.
rhinestones, but much like your spikes, you will see it from the audience.
Ooh, I like it. Dropping hints. I totally get what you're saying, how you want to portray like what you feel inside. Like for me, that's I've always like wanted to be like manly and masculine like my dad. And my dad's Mexican. So a lot of my drag is like Mexican influence, and I just want to portray the demonic cholo that I am inside.
Yes.
So I completely understand what you're saying. And one of the best things I get from drag is that we get to be celebrated for that, for what we've already felt that we were inside. And that is like such a blessing, because how many people get oppressed for that exact thing?
Yeah. And to be celebrated is such an affirming feeling, and very motivating.
Hell yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for coming and joining. I love getting everyone opportunities to express what they've been through, share your story, because there are a lot of people out there like us. So if people see visibility, then they feel more okay with who they are. So thank you so much for telling us about yourself. And I have a little goodie for you. You were just saying you liked this? What?
Yes.
And it's a signed copy. Yes. Yay, now you always have a memento for this little memory we can cherish forever.
This is awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for doing this type of platform and giving us a space to be seen and to be heard and to get this information out there and to show people that there really is hope beyond the darkness that they may be feeling in these moments.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm super honored for you to say that. Well, now for the last goodbyes, can you tell everyone where they can find you, whether it's shows, social media? I'm sure people are going to want a little more Ryder than just this.
I am on TikTok, Ryder Gently, Instagram, Facebook, all under Ryder Gently.
Perfect.
And then the King's Court at Boycott Bar, the first and third Saturday of every month.
Yay! Well, thank you again so much. This has been an absolute honor. And let's say goodbye to the internet. Bye! Should have said yeehaw. Okay, this one I think will be funny.
Oh no. Not funny.
Yeah, let's take a water break.
I don't do funny at all.